Hello and welcome everyone on the Information Technology and Service Management PCB webinars. My name is Vlera Arshala, the PCB organizer of this webinar, and today's topic is 7 tips to raise the awareness of ISO 22301 in your organization. This session will be presented by Mr. Raymond E. Mr. E is certified business continuity management consultant for BCP Asia. He has led more than 30 organizations to implement their business continuity management programs and has 8 years of upper management experience in large factory operation management and crisis management in China. Please write your questions and comments in the question box in the right-hand control panel, or you may use the option to raise your hand, and Mr. E will answer to them accordingly. Please, Mr. E, you may start the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Shah. Fabulous evening to everybody tuning in from Asia, if you are tuning in from Asia. Good afternoon if you are tuning in from Europe. And good morning if you are tuning in from Australia. It must be very late down under. You probably cannot sleep and decided to tune into my webinar. Thank you very much for tuning in to 7 tips to raise the awareness of ISO 22301 in your organization. I appreciate you spending 30 minutes of a precious time in this particular webinar itself. My name is Raymond E, and I'm a Singaporean who has stayed in Singapore for I think for the past 26 years before I traveled overseas and spent another 8 more years in China managing 2 factories. While I was in China itself, I wasn't short of any kind of experience or in managing crisis, because I had the personal experience to handle 3 company level strike of 1,000 employees, whereby they are shouting my name not because they love me, but because they have a lot of demands and they're not happy with the work. Of course, I have to manage a lot of scheduled or unscheduled power outages, theft, flood, structural damage, bomb threat. Also, I have bomb threat I have to handle, and also people who blackmail the company, trying to plant a detonator in my generator room, threatened to blow out the factory if we didn't pay the ransom. So these are some of the things that I have to handle when I was the general manager of 2 factories in China itself. So those were the years. About 5 years ago, I decided to come back to Singapore and to join Business Continuity Planning Asia, BCP Asia. Once I joined BCP Asia, I've been going around together with the company with my managing director, Mr. Henry E, around Asia to do seminars and as well as training in Hong Kong, Malaysia, Singapore, and a lot of other places in Southeast Asia. So those have been wonderful time. This is a company that I work in, and this is me here, and you can see that I have slightly lesser hair that you saw on compared to the earlier photo. I think this is the effect of doing business continuity management for too long. You get to lose your hair. I think this is the trend. Although I'm short, I'm probably the shortest among the group. You can see from here. I'm probably not short in the experience in crisis management, and hopefully I can share a little bit of my insight with you today, especially also on this particular topic. Now, before I start talking about how you can raise the awareness of ISO 22301 in your organization, basically about raising the awareness of business continuity management, I just want to quickly touch on what is business continuity management to some of you who are new to ISO 22301. Now, when I talk about business continuity management, when I ask people, what do you think about business continuity management and what does business continuity management means to you? Most of them will start to talk about the crisis or the disaster they have experienced that causes disruption to their businesses. So coming from Asia, I'm a Singaporean itself. So coming from Asia, in Asia there's also a lot of crisis and disaster that's happening here. So we have our bird flu, and also our earthquake and tsunami in Japan in the year 2011, Typhoon Haiyan in 2013. These are some of the disasters that has struck Asia country hard. And recently, there's also increasing in hacking incidents in Asia. In Singapore, we have our Prime Minister Office website being hacked. In South Korea, I think they also have corporate website being hacked before. And bombing incidents, terrorism has also increased in Asia. I think recently, if you can, in Thailand, in Bangkok itself, there's a terrorist who blew up tourists who is visiting the shrine, a very famous shrine in Bangkok itself. And of course, recently in Jakarta, in Indonesia, there's also a group of suicide bombers trying to shoot down tourists in the shopping belt. So these are the things that has been happening in Asia. And people has a lot of impression when I talk about business continuity, they always relate business continuity to all this disaster. Protest has been going on in Thailand, in Bangkok itself. This is probably almost a yearly or bi-yearly affair. We have the two political side, one wearing red shirt, one wearing yellow shirt. And probably this protest has also influenced a neighboring country like Malaysia. And I think this year they also started to have more protesters, also wearing red shirt and yellow shirt. I guess at the end of all these protesters, whether in Thailand or in Malaysia, the biggest winner is probably the person who sell the T-shirts to all those protesters. Now, having said that, disaster is most of the thing people thought about when I mentioned business continuity. And why do you need business continuity? Because of disasters and crisis. Now, but one thing is this: when we want to plan for disaster, that's what business continuity is. When you want to plan for disaster, we often found ourselves one step behind the disaster. Because why? Because there's always some disaster that's going to happen that you have not thought of. Think again. Before 9/11 incident, nobody really take terrorism very seriously. But after 9/11 incident in the US, everybody started to plan for terrorism. And then the tsunami in Asia, so after it happened, then everybody started to plan for tsunami. And when there's earthquake, tsunami, blast, nuclear disaster happened in Japan, which nobody thought that would happen, and it happened, and now everybody's trying to plan for those scenarios. But previously, if you ask anybody on the street, what is the chances of those events happening or those scenarios happening, a lot of people will not give you a chance. So the thing is, to be able to plan effectively for disaster, we have to be one step ahead and not one step behind a new disaster itself. So in short, to prepare for disaster, we have to, what do we have to do? We have to expect the unexpected event to happen. We have to, I repeat, we have to expect the unexpected event to happen. Now this sounds a little bit paradox, like a paradox itself. How can you expect something that you don't expect? How can you plan for something that you don't expect to happen? Now the thing is this, most of us, when we are planning to handle disaster, we are always looking at the various scenarios. We are always looking for what causes your business disruption. And there are many, many different scenarios, thousands of incidents, many which you have not thought of, you know, even like aliens invasion or Godzilla coming to your country. That might happen, that you have not thought of, but it may happen. And so it's very difficult to plan for all the scenarios. So what we can do is effectively is we don't plan for each scenario. What we do is this: we can plan to handle the consequences of losing these resources if your business is being disrupted by any of those 10,000 scenarios that I mentioned earlier on itself. Now, whichever scenario it is, with fire, flood, power outages itself, it will cause you what? Business disruption. And when you disrupt your business itself, how can you recover your business? So you focus on the consequences that will happen. So for example, fire, it may make you lose your premises. It may have resulted in staff injured. It may destroy your data, and also it may destroy your equipment. But if you have a business continuity plan that makes sure that you protect your premises, which means that if you lose your current premises, you have an alternate place to work. And if your current premise staff is injured or sick, there is an alternate current staff covering the place, his or her position. And if your data is being destroyed, you will have plans to already have data backup offsite elsewhere. And if your equipment is being destroyed also, you also have plans to make sure that the equipment can be recovered or purchased or rent or borrowed in order to continue the business. So the main focus is right now is how can you focus on recovering the resources which support your critical activities, your critical business function. So no matter what kind of scenario, what kind of disaster happen that will disrupt your critical activities and processes, as long as you are able to recover and protect all the 4 critical resources that you see here, you will be able to continue your business continuity. Now we know that to build organization resilience itself, it's not an overnight thing. You have to do it step by step using resources from your organization. You have to take baby steps. It may take you a year or 2 or 3 years before your program become more mature and you can really reap the result of the business continuity program that you put in place. So it's never going to be done overnight. And when you talk about business continuity, the keyword called resilience is always coming out from the various professionals. So what is resilient? What's resilient to you? Now resilient is like if you drop an egg onto the ground, the egg has no resiliency. And when there's a disaster, if you are like an egg itself with no business continuity program, you break, you fall apart. But if your organization has a business continuity program, has people who are well drilled in business continuity practices itself, then you are basically like a tennis ball, and you're able to take the impact of the crisis or disaster and be able to recover and bounce back. The ability to bounce back from a disaster is what I call resilience. So in business continuity management itself, as the ISO 22301 identified, basically it is about having an end-to-end management system that analyzes what causes business disruption and what are the consequences of these disruptions and how are we going to minimize the impact of this disruption so that we can build organization resilience and to protect our reputation and also answer to our fellow stakeholders. And this is what business continuity management is all about. We cannot prevent disaster from happening, but we can minimize the impact if ever there is a disaster or crisis that hits your organization. So ISO 22301 is an international standard that is used for auditor to audit your ISO, your business continuity management system within your organization. So any organization, if you want to implement business continuity management, you can use the ISO 22301 as a guideline, and as an auditor itself, the auditor will use this standard to audit your organization against for ISO 22301. So this is an auditable standard and currently has been very popular and used worldwide. Of course, before ISO 22301, there are also other standards from different countries. Even in Singapore, we also have our own business continuity standard, which is called the SS 540, Singapore Standard 540. And I think Singapore is also one of the countries that contribute a lot to this ISO 22301 standard. Other countries that contributed a lot to these standards are also the US and as well as the UK. So this is about ISO 22301. It's basically the ISO standard for implementing the business continuity for you to do audit on the system. When you talk about how can you raise awareness of ISO 22301 in the organization, what I want to do is to start off to talk about some of the common misperception about BCM that leads to low awareness of BCM in your company. So what are some of the common misperceptions? The first misperception is BCM is very time consuming. It's very time consuming to implement in the organization. Now, to implement any standard, you need time, yes, but you also need discipline. Right? If you do not have any discipline, if you do not have a methodology, okay, if you are not well trained to implement a program, any program also will take you a lot of time or waste you a lot of time yourself. So definitely you wanted to get yourself trained before you start to implement. And business continuity can be implemented within 6 to 12 months time. And you do not need a full-time BCM manager in order to do that. So this is the number one first misconception. BCM is too complex. Nobody understands. Now again, it's too complex because probably the consultant or the BCM manager that's running this program talk in jargon itself. Business continuity management need to be very complex. It is a concept that can be understood easily by laymen, and it's a concept that people know that it's good to be resilient. It's good to have a backup plan, a resilient, to be resilient against disruption itself. So it all depends on how the subject of business continuity is being taught in the organization. It's not complex at all. It's too boring. Yes, business continuity to some of the people could be boring, could be very serious because they link serious with boring. So again, it depends on how you wanted to promote business continuity within your organization. You can always make business continuity fun, in which I will talk about it later on. No budget. Yes, we do not have budget for business continuity. We do not have a budget to have alternate site. Now, no budget for business continuity. You can implement business continuity with whatever budget there is given. If you have more budget, you can do more. You have less budget, you can do less. You can always use whatever budget is given to implement your resilience against disruption. You may not need a lot of budget. Maybe you do not have a lot of budget in the first year, but you can accumulate the budgets for subsequent year to build on your program. As I said earlier on, business continuity, the resiliency is not built overnight. It takes time. So with whatever budget, you can start a business continuity program. And some of them say that business continuity management, BCM, is a waste of money. Now I have to disagree with that itself. It is a waste of money because some of the organizations, they take the time and the budget and the effort to implement for the first year, but they never maintain the program. They never follow up. So in the end, they do not reap the benefit of business continuity itself, and that's where they view it as a waste of money. So what are the 7 things that you can do to raise the awareness of BCM in your organization? So I'm going to quickly touch on this 4. Now, first of all, tip number 1, you start from the start. You start from the leadership, the top management itself. You get the top management involved. Get them to lead the program, so that you have visibility from the program, of the program itself. It's always easier to increase awareness from top down. So where the management is engaged, and anything that the management say, maybe management doesn't need to say one word, is definitely far more effective in driving the program forward than 1,000 word BCM manager could say, because the management set the direction and the people below will follow, especially if you have strong management. So therefore, engage your management right from the start. Engage them to come up with the scope of the business continuity program, management program, and also engage them to come up with the minimum business continuity objective, the MBCO. So what does the organization minimally need to deliver in order to still, they can say that they can fulfill their obligation to their customer, to their stakeholder, to continue their business. So all these are decisions the top management have to make. So engage them early and get them excited. And then if they are excited, people below also will become excited. Now, tip number 2, The second is how can you keep the middle management update? Now we have settled the top management itself. The second one, of course, is the middle management. You have to also engage them. Middle management is what we always say is the sandwich class. Why is it so? Now, this middle management, they probably has the least knowledge about business continuity, because when you spend money, you are spending money to train what we call the department BCM coordinator, who are working under probably the head of department, which is below the middle management. So the middle management itself, they probably has the least knowledge because probably they are the least trained, and you don't engage them for the organization, MBCO or the scope. But then they are the one that has to sign off the BIA, the business impact analysis, your business continuity plan that the coordinators have developed, and they have to put their signature to it and to be responsible. So in short, they have the least knowledge but has the highest responsibility for any BCM program. So in that case, you will have to engage them separately, maybe a separate training or short awareness session to let them understand what you're coming from and what's the benefit of business continuity program. And also to encourage the BCM coordinator from their department to go through the plan with them in more detail, so that when they were to put their signature on the dotted line itself, it's not that they are signing blindly, but they are engaged by the BCM coordinator in their department to really understand what the company can do when the time comes to handle disaster or handle crisis. So engage the middle management, keep them updated. Third tips, oops, I'm jumping a gun. Third tip is to let your alternate takes the lead. What I mean, so in business continuity, we have different roles within the team itself, and each of the team leader or the business continuity or the BCM coordinators, we have the primary and we always have the backup person as well, the alternate itself. So there's a lot of roles in business continuity management teams. And what I suggest is that for every year, you rotate the primary with the alternate, so that the alternate itself, after they undergone training, they have the chance to take the lead and to really be taking the lead when they participate in exercises, updating their document, and keep them fresh and keep their interest level there. So constantly swap people around, taking different roles, and then that will keep their interest level high, and therefore also increases the awareness of BCM in the company. Now I talked about previously about people saying business continuity management is boring. Now I have to disagree with that. Business continuity can be interesting. It depends on the trainer, how the consultant will to make the training fun for everyone. And you can do that. And because we have done that, I have done that before. Our organization, BCPH, have done that before for our workshop itself. We always wanted our participant to enjoy this training session, the workshop, so that it will, once they're happy, once they're having fun, once they're relaxed, they start to learn. And when they start to learn, they start to like business continuity, and they will not find business continuity is something that is boring and something that's taking up their time, because they are able to appreciate the importance of business continuity through fun activities itself. And I think this is what I would recommend most of you if we are looking at doing training on business continuity. Now, to the fifth tip that I'm going to give you to increase awareness is to hit all your staff from all directions with all sorts of channels, from the social medias, Twitter, Facebook. You create your own Facebook page to talk about business continuity management. You can create your own web portal to talk about business continuity management. Right? You can even do webinar like what I'm doing right now to connect to people which you may not able to connect physically because they are not at your location, or you may not have the traveling budget, but you can always do some webinar to connect to people that is further away from you. Or you can even publish newsletters, magazines on business continuity, or subscribe to magazines and distribute to your staff. So find all sorts of ways and channels to engage them with the social media, especially with social media, because a lot of people now, they spend a lot of time on social media, and sometimes they can learn a lot of things when they're more relaxed reading information from the social media. The sixth tip is this. 20 years ago, when we started doing business continuity, we are still using paper, Word, Excel. 20 years later, at this moment in time, time has changed. There's a lot of tools, automation tools for you to use to manage business continuity. No longer you are just restricted to using Office tools like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and then you end up with one whole stack of documents. There are very good BCM planning software out in the market that will help you to implement your business continuity seamlessly. And once you use the software itself, the user, the business continuity management coordinators, all the various team members who is using the software, they will find that it's very easy for them to maintain their documentation, for them to go through the program. And it also helps to save their time. Other software that you can use to do call tree notification is there's a couple of software out in the market that you can use. So to do emergency notification, you can use a web-based software that you can log in and instantly blast out SMS messages to different people. So no longer you need to call people one by one, using mobile phone or landline. That's what traditionally we do, but currently you can blast out SMS through a web-based system and collate the responses from the individual mobile user to check whether are they responding to your messages itself. So there's a lot of tools out there that you can use to help to make your life simpler and easier when you are implementing business continuity management. So do use that. My last tip for you to increase awareness is this. Do engage your supplier. Do make sure that your supply chain is also taken care in your business continuity program. So right now, if you engage your supplier, especially if you get them to conduct exercise together with you, you inevitably also involve other people in your organization to be more aware of business continuity, which maybe in your normal tabletop exercises that you may have missed them out. So if you engage your supplier, the supplier also have the chances to talk about it in front of your own employee, and thereby also increases the awareness of the ISO 22301, the business continuity management within your organization itself. And it's always good practice to engage your supplier, because this is the time whereby you can test out whether your supplier, whether their own business continuity program works or not. Whether if their own business continuity program fail, if their BCP were to fail, would they also drag you down? So something that you can take note of it. So here are all my 7 tips for you to increase the awareness of ISO 22301. So looking to the future, what is the world going to be? Now we know that with the increasing of global warming and the world being more volatile itself, there are definitely more crises, more disaster. The world is at the unrest stage at this moment. And with more crisis, more business disruption is expected. If you stay if you are in business for long enough, you will definitely experience at least 1 or 2 disruptions during your lifespan of your business itself. And of course, in future, because of the higher, more intense competition in the business market itself, customer has higher expectation from us. They want us to be able to deliver the same kind of services to them, whether our business is affected by crisis or any disaster itself. The expectation is there. So in future, business continuity program, our customer will expect all the company to have business continuity program, just like we ourselves expect that we have insurance coverage or health insurance. It should be as common as that. Or yes. So in the future, what I envision is this: business continuity will become a standard in most organizations, who will want to be able to continue their services and compete at the utmost level against their competition. Business continuity management is going to give them the edge to tell the customer that we will be there despite any disaster. We will be there to continue to supply you the goods. We will be there to provide you the services. And business continuity management will be very seamlessly implemented across the entire organization. Because why? Because business continuity in the future will be everybody's responsibility in the organization. It's not just the top management, it's not the BCM manager, it's not the BCM coordinators. It is everybody's responsibility from the top right down to the bottom, right down to the staff on the ground itself. So with that, I will end my presentation for today. And if you want to know more about our services in Business Continuity Planning Asia, BCP Asia, do check out our website at www.bcpasia.com itself. We provide training, consulting, and internal audits, as well as gap analysis on business continuity management. And I would like to take the next maybe few minutes to see if there's any questions from the floor. So, Mr. Shah, is there any questions that you may pick up?
Mr. E, thank you very much for this great presentation. As we have some time left, we'll go some through questions. Okay, I will read to you and you will answer to them. The first question is, assuming low buy-in by top management, are there any tools or guidelines available to getting started?
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. Okay, assuming low buy-in by top management, are there any tools?
Low buy-in?
Yeah.
Low buy-in?
Yeah, I think low buy by top management. It's written like this. Maybe I want to ask Mr. Thompson to clarify a bit. Are there any tools or guidelines available to getting started? Or maybe if you can understand, I will go with another question. And maybe
we start with another question. Yes, we start with another question.
Okay. The other question is, what is the similarity between BSM and emergency preparedness and response in the OHSAS 10,001 framework?
Okay, so you talk about business continuity management and emergency.
Yeah.
Emergency ERM.
Yeah. What are the similarities?
Okay, business continuity management itself, it encompasses a lot of other disciplines that crosses into business continuity. So some of the people, they talk about ERM. So your enterprise risk management itself is part of a business continuity. Emergency management, you have your crisis management itself, supply chain management. So all these will crosses into business continuity management. For ERM, it always comes from the risk manager side. So they look at the risk itself from the organization perspective. And BCM, which will lead to you creating your business continuity plan, is always a way for you to mitigate most of the risk in the organization itself. But in ERM, when you look at the risk, the range of risk is usually more than the range of risk that BCM consider, because BCM will usually consider risk that would disrupt your businesses. So it could be infrastructure risk. So any of the risks like typhoon, earthquake that will disrupt a business, or risk that will disrupt or causes injury to your people itself, or risk that will disrupt your business processes, maybe cyber hacking, things like that. But in ERM itself, the risk that the organization consider is actually much wider than the BCM. So company which already has ERM in place, for them to do BCM itself, the risk analysis element of the BCM, they can borrow a lot of things from the ERM. so it's easier for them to start with. Okay.
Thank you very
So
much.
this is the relationship between BCM and ERM. So, yeah.
Thank you very much,
Is there
Mr.
another
E.
question?
Another question is, one of attendees has asked you, please, it's possible to have some samples of exercises to train organization on BCM?
Sample exercises.
Yeah.
When you want to conduct exercises itself, you can definitely plan exercises. You should try to do exercises from exercises that are easier to conduct, and then as you progress, you conduct exercises that is more difficult. What I mean by that, so maybe in the first year when you started off your business continuity plan, when everybody is still not too sure about their roles, responsibility, and the process, you will want to stick with maybe a simple tabletop exercise. So people will sit around the tabletop, go through a plan with a very simple scenario so that people are more familiar with the roles and procedure. So this is maybe one of the exercises, one of the type of exercises you can create. Then following the next year, you can increase the complexity of the exercises by throwing in some simulations. So once they are more familiar, you may throw in simulation to get people to maybe react to certain scenario, situation, and then maybe even to move from one location to another location on the third year when you conduct the exercise. So on the third year itself, other than desktop simulation, you may want to actually have physical movement from one location where the person during the exercise will go to the recovery site or your alternate site to perform business recovery so that they get familiar with the actual movement from one place to the other itself. But if you start off the first year exercise and then you do a simulation that involve movement from one place to another place itself, you may cause a lot of confusion. And then when there's confusion, people will not be able to learn as much, and then they may find that it's too complex and they may give up. So do plan your exercise ahead in terms of increasing complexity, and do try to give them different scenario that is more realistic and more real life to their current situation. So Mr. Vera, is there any other question?
Thank you, Mr. E. No, we don't have any other question. Yeah, in fact, yeah, now we have another question. For one of attendees has asked you for audit certification where to get the structured documentation. Maybe
for all the certification.
Yeah, maybe
where
this
to
is
get
where to get the structured documentation. Maybe this question is or to prepare for audit. Maybe this question is more for PECB, and we will answer to Mr.
Yes.
After that.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Raymond, for this great presentation and highly informative, and for answering the questions. I want to thank all attendees as well for taking the time out of your busy schedule and join us. We hope you enjoyed this webinar, and you can watch this session recorded and view the presentation slides on our website www.pcb.com. Please be informed that next Monday we are hosting another webinar titled Outsourcing Risk Management. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Goodbye.